Hello everyone, here I am, Georgeham Island, on Westminster Bridge in London, right in the heart of London. This is a very major thoroughfare, but it's been closed to traffic today because it's so busy around here with the Queen's funeral coming up. And then you can see behind me, on the north bank of the River Thames, the House of Parliament, and that complex includes Westminster Hall, where Her Britannic Majesty is lying in state. About 2:20, the procession departed from Buckingham Palace. Her body was flown down from Edinburgh, Scotland earlier, and it was laid out in Buckingham Palace for a while, and the procession was led by His Majesty the King, His Gracious Majesty Charles III. He drove down there, so he marched down there, flanked by his sons, his brothers, his sister, other members of the House of Windsor. Obviously thousands of soldiers parading in their dress uniforms, gorgeously caparisoned cavalrymen with their complete equipage of the Blues and Royals, and indeed the Life Guards, the two cavalry regiments of the Household Division. And so her body was brought to Westminster Hall in the Palace of Westminster, commonly called Parliament. So Westminster Hall was completed in 1100 by King William Rufus, and it's where other monarchs have lain in state, notably the last Empress of India, who was the mother of the current Queen. The Empress of India died in 2002, and I waited 2.5 hours to file past her closed casket. So we'll not see the Queen's body. I regret to say that the Queen's body is, of course, I'm afraid, rotting. They've made done something to preserve it, so you know that it won't be malodorous around there or it won't explode. But you wouldn't be able to see it because it'll be a fine, sturdy oak coffin. Anyway, these people here are queuing up to file past the Queen as she lies in state. The Queen is guarded by soldiers in their dress uniform, and King Charles and his siblings, they mounted guard for a few minutes earlier today, stood there with heads bowed in solemn contemplation of the somber spectacle. Her Britannic Majesty's coffin on a catafalque bedecked with the Royal Standard, which is her flag, it's not the Union flag, and some flowers and so on, some heather from her estate there in then Balmoral, Scotland. So people have been told to expect to queue for up to 30 hours to file past it just for a minute. You're not allowed to take photographs or film in there. Of course, it's filmed on television, broadcast around the world. So Her Majesty the Queen shall be there for 4 days. And 23 hours a day, people are allowed to file past. There will come a time when people will not be able to do so because they need to close the hall for just essential cleaning. You can imagine hundreds of thousands of people walking past. It's just going to there's going to be a little cleaning necessary. When I queued up to go file past the Empress of India's casket, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning when I managed to go past it. So if you want to do this, I recommend you come very, very late indeed. So these are some of the people who are part of the queue. It seems to be moving really fast. But I spoke to a woman earlier who'd already been waiting for 4 hours. So that's not that bad, but people may get desperate towards the time. I read in the newspaper about a couple who've flown in from New Zealand to file past Her Britannic Majesty's casket. So people are not allowed to drive past here, but I did see some people in a car. Perhaps they were VIPs, though it didn't seem a very VIP car, or disabled or something like that. A lot of private security guards hired in to help the police. Police brought from all over the United Kingdom, from Wales, it says Heathley on their uniforms. People brought in from Nottinghamshire, from Lancashire and elsewhere. So these are some of the people, and they're being ushered by the marshals to cross the road to join the queue there on Westminster Bridge, which is filing up towards Westminster, where Her Majesty the Queen's casket is there. They're being checked for their yellow bracelets to make sure that nobody's queue jumped. You're told to bring food and drink with you, and if you go out of the queue, then you're going to lose your place. And so it is, so that they're having to control them, marshal them. This is the London Bridge Plan. So this has been in place for decades in case the Queen changed, and it was adapted now and then. So they knew that hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people are going to try and file past her casket. They're inviting every king, queen, and almost every president in the world. President Vladimir Putin has not been invited for reasons one might guess. President Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus has not been invited, nor indeed has President Rahmani of Iran. Now, not to say that every monarch is going to come, or every president, but many of them will. Otherwise, send high-level dignitaries to represent their country at the funeral of Her Most Gracious Majesty, who was obviously Queen of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and her realms and possessions beyond the seas, as well as over 14 other countries like Australia, Canada, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, New Zealand, Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados, the Bahamas. I think I missed a few. Head of the Commonwealth, Defender of the Faith, and so on. So it's a world-shaking event. Someone who was Britain, who personified the United Kingdom for 70 years. And as Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, remarked, that Canada was only established as a country in 1867, and the Queen was the Canadian head of state for almost half of Canada's life. Well, Canada's existed for 155 years as a distinct entity, and she was their monarch for 70 years. So all right, 85 years prior to that, when she was not their monarch. So you can see how reasonably fast-moving it is. And no, I'm not going to try and cut into the queue. So yeah, extra police drafted in. Now football matches have been cancelled. Not really out of a mark of respect. They said that it's partly because the police force just doesn't have the numbers to police the crowds. So security is on high alert in case there's a terrorist incident or anything like that. People can be stopped and searched going into Westminster Hall. And then this coming Monday, the Queen's body will have her funeral. Her funeral service should be performed in Westminster Abbey, that church which stands hard by Westminster Hall, which dates to the 10th century AD, was extensively rebuilt by King Edward the Confessor in the 1040s. Edward the Confessor, of course, has this King Edward's chair, which is used for the throne. Westminster Abbey, indeed, was where Elizabeth II was crowned Queen of the United Kingdom and her other realms and possessions beyond the seas. And it's where royal funerals used to be performed, but actually, curiously, they haven't been performed since 1760. But it's coming back again, and they're Saint Edward's shoes, one of the few kings of England to be canonised, and so they would just have them touched against their feet, his slippers, as part of the coronation service. But they're still preserved, those leather slippers or shoes. So you can see people of all races. We can't really tell faiths and ages, though I think it's probably a bit biased towards people a bit older who are going to file past the Queen's closed coffin there in Westminster Hall. So moving faster than I would have hoped. I mean, I would join myself, but I'm just not willing to wait that many hours to file past it. There's part of me says, come on, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Now, when Charles III dies, he's 73, so it can't be so many decades off. I think there'll be obviously not such a strong reaction. The Queen has provoked a very strong reaction because, of course, there's enormous affection for her, a very respectable person who seldom put a foot wrong. Moreover, she's been there just so long. So she was 96, and they calculated there are only 160,000 people in the United Kingdom who are older than her, 160,000 out of a total population of 70 million. So there are lots of foreign camera crews interviewing people as they go along, asking how they feel. Here, TVE from Spain. I thought they'd do it in Spanish or something like that. Okay, so thank you so much for watching me reporting here from London, just south of Westminster Bridge. As you can see, the enormous queue of people is, as far as the eye can see, is several miles long already, and it's only going to get longer because Westminster Hall has only been open for people to file past as he lies in state for a few hours already. So thank you so much for watching my channel. Please subscribe to me on Patreon and donate to me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.